Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 148, The 4 Signs of an Emotionally Intelligent Empath. In this episode, we talk about different insights and clues that we found in our own lives and from our clients' lives on what it looks like when an empath is using their emotional intelligence at the highest possible abilities. And in this episode, we give you 4 different tips that you could apply in your own life. And I also wanted to say my Energy Management for Empath Entrepreneurs online self-study program, the cart opens June 18th, Friday, June 18th. So keep a lookout for that. And I'm also accepting 5 spots for one-on-one deep coaching over the next 3 months. So I hope everybody enjoys the show.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is all about the 4 signs of the emotionally intelligent empath. I think we should distinguish between someone that's emotionally connected and someone that's not, because we both have been in the space where we didn't even know we were empaths.
Yeah, exactly. Because before I even heard this word or even this idea, I didn't realize that I was actually feeling other people's emotions. And if you would have told me that, I'd have been like, no way, how is that possible? Mm-hmm. So if you don't even believe it from the beginning or know it or you're not aware of it, then how are you ever going to understand that connection?
Exactly. So that's something that would be on the other end of the spectrum. And then when you're emotionally intelligent, when it comes to being an empath, you're aware of feelings. And sometimes there's moments where you're not aware. There's going to be moments of being up and down with this.
Exactly. So as you're listening throughout this podcast episode, just remember that we're humans. We're not perfect, right? You're not perfect. So no matter how good you get at all of these, there are going to be times to where it's like you feel a little off. Mm-hmm. But this is something to aim towards and to focus towards and to understand that it is possible. A lot of you understand that it's possible because you're living this too. So let's get started. Yes. So one of the signs that you are an empath who's emotionally intelligent is, number 1 is what we just talked about a little bit ago, is you understand your energy and how it feels, your emotions, your thoughts compared to somebody else's. So for example, if you're going to go grocery shopping and then you walk into the grocery store, well, before you walk in, you understand your emotional state. You know how you feel. You have self-awareness to where when you walk into that grocery store and somebody else is pissed off, like right when you walked in, and you absorb that energy, you'll understand that that's what happened there compared to the opposite.
Yeah, when you absorb the energy, all of a sudden you're in a bad mood and you're like, wait, what just happened?
Right.
Because at first you don't... I remember times where I would go out and I would all of a sudden get anxiety when I was out. But before I left, I wasn't feeling anxious, you know? And there would be something happening at the space, or there would be, you know... I was talking to someone that was connected to that feeling, and then there's been other situations where I left the house and I was feeling anxious before I even left. So it's like just being aware of that space, where you're coming from. Because
even before you get to the space, us as empaths, we start tuning into the energy of it. So before you left the house, that's a lot of times that's what's happening, is you're tuning into the energy where you're going, and then you're tuning into the people's energy, and then maybe some of them have anxiety, and you're just you're opening a whole can of worms here, because it becomes overwhelming and confusing if you're not intelligently processing all of this.
And I want to attach a little tip in here in between the next one, because I feel like this is really important. Sometimes we go out throughout the whole day, and by 5 o'clock, you're drained or you're emotionally frustrated from something. From, if you're an entrepreneur, you're annoyed, or you're going into the work, into a workspace and you're working in the public. But if you set your alarm throughout the day, I would say maybe 3 times throughout the day, just doing a check-in. Like, okay, let me check in with my emotional state in the morning. Let me set an alarm for lunchtime. And you can even title it emotional check-in, so that you're aware and you don't wait until the end of the day.
Exactly. And that's a great way to constantly be aware of that, because I think this is something that you should always be aware of throughout the day. Like every second of the day.
Yeah.
You should, like, of course we go unconscious sometimes, but then you snap back and you're like, all right, how am I feeling? So that's a great idea to like set your alarms. If you're not already doing this, to set your alarm so that way you get into that habit of becoming aware of this, because this is a powerful thing. It sounds so simple, but it's transformed everything in my life and in my clients' lives as I see them start to transform the way that they view this and see this. Because, for example, with me, it used to be a challenge just going inside buildings. I'd always try to avoid going inside places. Like if we're going out, or in my career as a teacher, I was like, I'm going to work online. But then I ended up working in the public schools, and I broke all of those
we
beliefs.
were using a pendulum. They would understand this.
Right.
A pendulum to figure out, like, wait, should he go online, or should he go to these schools?
Right.
But it was more for the fear.
I knew in my heart that
you knew
I was supposed to go into the schools because that was where my most growth would happen. And that's what I needed for my journey. But then in my head, I kept going back and forth because I'm like, how am I going to be inside of a place and do all of this, right? So it was like, it definitely was fear.
I'm like, oh no, you're going in
stopping
person with the children, because I knew what it was like when you work in person with the kids at the beginning.
So
at the very beginning.
Exactly. So one clue to this is, how do you overcome this if you do have a fear of this, if you're already aware of your energy and all of this, and then you still have these fears? Well, just by doing it, right? So like I said, with being a teacher in the public schools, I knew in my heart that that's what I was supposed to be doing, but then I had a pendulum. How many of you done that with different things where you overcomplicated it because of fear? So
or you ask for a sign.
So this is huge, understanding your energy, your emotions, and no matter how much you understand this now, like us, we're teaching it right now. I want to understand this even more today. I want to go meditate on it. I want to figure this out, because this is a life-transforming technique here, or idea of awareness.
It is. And before we go on to the next one, I want to bring this up, really, really important to think about. When you go into a Facebook room or you go on your news feed, that's like walking into a public place too. So if you go on Facebook before you got on and you were emotionally connected to your own emotions, you knew everything was good, and all of a sudden something came up on your Facebook page and you emotionally felt disconnected or frustrated or agitated, don't go further with it. Ask yourself, wait, what just happened? Because sometimes you can go on autopilot and scroll and you don't even know what just took place, what changed my mood. I've done that before.
And that's dangerous when you don't know what happened, because you're unconscious.
Exactly.
So it's spilling straight into your unconscious.
It's like watching the news. You know, you don't even know, you're just sitting watching a TV show. I don't watch the news, but the news feed is very similar. You have to really be aware of what your emotional sense is in that moment.
Exactly. So let's go to number 2. The number 2 sign that you are highly intelligent emotionally as an empath is you're an energy alchemist, meaning that you often hear people create boundaries, and I teach this too. But it's one of those things to where no matter how many boundaries you create, it's like water. Energy is like water. It's gonna find a way to leak through and leak into you. And you being an empath, you're prone to this because you absorb the energies of the world very easily. That's what makes you a great healer, but it also is what can make you drained over time. So highly intelligent, emotionally intelligent empaths, they understand that they came to this planet to be an energy alchemist. They came here to transform the energies of the world. That's why they're able to absorb these energies so much. And you do this by grounding the energy, right? So it's easy for us to judge, like when we're absorbing negative energy and we're like, oh, that's either hate energy or they're haters or this or that. And it's easy for us to sit there and judge it, right? But what we could do instead is we could just take it, observe it, and ground it and transform it into something else, into a higher energy.
Yeah. And one of the tips that you gave the other day in the online was the red ball tip.
Exactly. So visualize right now, close your eyes right now, and visualize a red ball 1 foot below your feet. And just keep all of your focus and your energy and your intention right there on that red ball that's 1 foot below your feet. What's happening right now? Well, if you did it what's happening is you're going to feel all this energy from the top of your head, above your head, flood down and out through the bottom of your feet. It's one way to ground, and that's one of a million ways to ground. You could go touch a tree, you could take your shoes and socks off and go walk on grass, but you could go work out. When you work out, you're grounding your energy. Anytime you're in nature, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but you know that you're doing it by the way that it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Because you go from absorbing or whatever, you have this stagnant energy, this negative energy, to where when you ground it, you feel light, you feel highly energized but calm at the same time. And that's when you know that you grounded your energy and you became an energy alchemist. You literally transformed energy from lower frequencies to higher frequencies.
Exactly. And another way you could do it too is the next time you're in the shower, just imagining all the water rushing from the top of your body out the drain. And I feel like that's a really powerful thing to do too.
That's a good idea.
I do it all the time.
The number 3 sign that you have high emotional intelligence is you're constantly using your ability in your relationships and in your business and your career. Meaning you're not suppressing this powerful gift that we've been talking about this entire episode.
Yeah, and that's huge, especially with the work that, you're doing in the world. If you're someone that's in the spiritual field, I feel like a lot of people that are listening are connected in that way, to use that ability. So I think the big thing to separate to being an empath and being someone that is using their empathic nature in their business is that they're aware of it, to use it as like that superpower, and to use it in ways that, when you're creating, you're thinking about people's feelings in mind, and you're thinking about what feels right to you and what you're putting out into the world. And I feel like that separates a lot of people when it comes to when you're buying products and different things like that. They could feel the energy of that.
It really is. That is
so
your
much
superpower.
love.
So that is a good question to lean into, is like, how can I use this empathic gift, like you were just describing, in my business,
right,
and in my relationships? And that is huge. What you just hit on is like, yes, because people feel, oh, they care. They really want me to get these results. And that becomes your superpower. So think about other ways that you could apply this gift in your relationships too, and in your business, to where you're not suppressing it. For example, growing up, and even after I was aware of this gift, I would often suppress it because I would be around a family member, or maybe it was when I was teaching, or maybe it was a client, and I would feel the truth, and I'd feel the energy, and I would know that I was supposed to say something in that moment, and I wouldn't. And I'm talking, this is before I started to really trust my instincts on this, and I would suppress it. So how many times have you done that, to where you felt like you were supposed to say something either to a friend or a family member, and you knew in that moment you were supposed to say it, but you didn't? So I would say that's not using your gift.
Yeah.
If you do that. So using your gift would be obviously speaking your soul, speaking your heart, because you have an interesting perspective on this planet, because the way that you see it, the way that you view energy, and you could feel energy, and people need to really hear from that perspective. So I think it's really important to use that.
I totally believe that, and I feel like this year more than ever, it's so important to share your truth, because I feel like there's high energy out there right now where people are resonating with truth. It's either fear or truth. That's what's happening. It's either people are getting sucked into fear or they're getting sucked into truth. And when you're doing the entrepreneurship work, people feel it. And I know our students, we've spoke with them about this, and we spoke with them even about before joining programs and what they felt when they were drawn in. And that happens to every teacher. I can think of like so many of my teachers, when I joined the program, some of them, it wasn't even like the actual content. Like the content was awesome, but I felt pulled into them as people. And I knew that there was energy that was connected that I needed to be a part of too.
Right. You felt that hell yes inside. It wasn't in between.
Exactly.
Like, you're like, oh, maybe I want to.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I know for sure that I'm pulled to that.
Exactly. Like there's nothing that's going to get in the way. I need to take this. That's just how I work. I know there's so many different people that will do it in a different way, but when your heart knows something, you just feel pulled in.
Exactly. So think of more ways that you can continue to use this empathic gift in every area of your life, because it's, I believe, your most valuable gift that you have. So let's go to number 4. The number 4 sign that you have high emotional intelligence as an empath is, surprise, surprise, you're always learning and growing.
That's a huge one. And I want to, with this tip, because this is like another way that is so important, I do want to mention this. I feel like it's a big thing to listen to really carefully. We always talk about growing and taking action, but also growing and taking action means living your life in having experiences, getting out of your house and going and doing things. And from those experiences, intuitively, empathically, you could pick up on lessons. It could be in nature. It could be riding a bike. You could be going to a concert. You could be talking to a homeless man. There's so many different ways that you can receive lessons and you're growing spiritually. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily read a book every second all day. That's just an added piece to it. But I think that's important.
It's so important because if I think about all the road trips we went on, all the cities we've been to, and different people we've met, that's just as valuable, if not more, as of the education as all of the books that I've read. And I will say they combine with one another because it's like all the books that I've read personally, speaking for myself, the videos I've watched, I take that to every city I go to. And I look through those lenses and I could see in a unique way that city, right? Because from my unique experiences. So it's like the combination of all of it, right? Your whole life is your classroom. So it's like you want to go explore every part of the classroom, every part of the world that you feel pulled to. And that includes your desires, your gifts, your skills. Like start to pursue all of those too and grow in that way. Like you're saying, Lindsay, it's not just like in your career and business. That's what we all get celebrated for. Yeah. It's like, oh, they're such high achievers in their career or business. But it's like, the way I see it is like a person's overall life. Like look at someone's overall life and how they're living their life and their lifestyle. I think that's what you'll find with people, that it's infectious when you know someone's happy or not. So the people that you know that are happy, that you meet throughout time, you'll realize if you look at their life that they're living a lifestyle where they're pursuing hobbies, they're pursuing these interests, they're traveling, they're doing all these different things.
Yeah.
And they're continuously learning their skills too, right? So they're growing their skill levels. Like you offer your mediumship students a chance to develop their skills for a reason, right? Because you believe in education. We're teachers. So it's like you're developing your skills with online courses, with books, with all of these different things that you have, all the different resources that you have in front of you.
Yeah. And one of the things that I feel like is a big deal too is repetition and fine-tuning things. You know, we've spoke about that a lot. We spoke about that recently because your Empath class is opening up soon. And one of the things that you focus on is fine-tuning things, not just learning. It's like transformational fine-tuning. And one of the things that I was thinking about last night, we watched the movie Think and Grow Rich, and Rob from Rob and Big was on there. And he spoke about how many times he read the book Think and Grow Rich. He's like, you should be reading that every day of your life for the rest of your life. Think about Bob Proctor, how many times he said that he read the book Think and Grow Rich.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter how much information that you know or you're in front of, it's fine-tuning and learning different lessons within that information. So whether it's in a book, it's in online courses, it's in the tasks and exercises that come with it to go out in the outside world. That's one thing, because I've taken your class, your course before anyone. And one of the things that I love about it is it focuses in on not just information and listening to information, but actual hands-on things that I could do to leave and go and do so that I can have the transformation for myself. It's just not just listening to information. It's like, whoa, I'm having transformation in the moment of listening to the information. And then also the things that I'm being told to do, to write down and reflect on, that I didn't even know I needed to tune into. So I feel like that's like a really powerful thing when it comes to learning and growing, that no matter what you're doing, it's going to be in the feeling that you get from whatever it is that you're doing.
Exactly. I talk about in the intro of my course, and you do this in your courses too, where you share your philosophy around it. And I talk about how it's like that, like this, my course, Energy Management for Empath Entrepreneurs, which is coming out, the card opens June 18th.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for. This, the way we use it is it's not an informational course. It's a transformational course. You're going to learn a lot from it, but it's like what Lindsay was saying. It's more of the insights you're going to find within yourself as you're using these tools and going through these processes. And that's what I love the most about this, is it is fine-tuning. It's not just, because as a teacher, I don't believe, in when I was teaching in the public schools, I don't believe it's like, here, let's cram all this information down people's throat and then take a test and you pass it. No, it's like, let's use what's in front of us right now and see what runs over the kid's mind and see what it looks like to them from their own personal world, because that's all that matters is when we're reading a book. That's why Rob could read the same book over and over.
Oh yeah.
It's the same words, but he receives something more each time.
That's what he was talking about.
Because he's doing it around insight. It's the same thing as when you brought up Bob Proctor. It was one of his videos I've watched, I bet, at least 1,000 times.
And I know you have.
Every time I've watched it, I get something more out of it. Why? It's not the specific information. It's what's going over me and inside of me as it's happening. And that's the philosophy that I take into my masterminds, my e-courses, and everything that I do.
Yeah. And in those mediums that are listening here, you probably know when you're giving information to a client, you know that if one client listens to it at one point, that reading, and someone else is sitting next to them and they're receiving it too, they're both going to have different experiences and feel different energy, because it's what's imprinted and ingrained in them of how they're going to receive the information. It really is about the perception and how it's coming in at that moment in your life. So there's always going to be changes that come up when you do things. So I would suggest the next time that you do take an online course or you take notes on something, to look at it through a different lens. It's going to naturally happen, but look for the things out there that create transformation rather than just information. And I think you're going to get a lot more out of the things. Or if you have an informational class, take notes on your own experiences and reflect on, how does that relate to me right now while I'm getting this information? That helps it stick better. Because I always had issues trying to memorize things. I wasn't good at memorizing. But if I think of a story from my own life or a story that I knew from a friend, it would help me, relate to it and stick with it to remember that concept.
Exactly. And then as you take that and create stories with it with your own life, that it's like it becomes even more sticky.
Yeah.
And that's like where
that's where all the learning takes place.
Everything
the
comes
transformation.
around. It's all valuable part of the process.
Exactly. So, okay, we gave you a lot of information so far and shared a lot of different stories, but we want to hear from you. Please share one insight that you learned from this episode. And the other task that would be really powerful is to pick something that you would love to learn right now. Learn it on another level that's totally different than ever before that you've learned it. Just taking what we've shared with you and see if you can think about, how can I do things differently when it comes to my emotional sense, when it comes to being an empath. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.